Hello, Penny. Well, Chag Sameach to everybody.
Chag Sameach from Beverly Hills to Bristol, United Kingdom. It's a pleasure to be with you. Clive, I think we've known each other for at least 30 years, but if I would have told you 30 years ago that one day we would be presiding over a global Succah hop, I think you would have said, nah, Penny, I think you're dreaming.
Well, I wouldn't have known that we could have done it, but here we are. It's interesting, actually, Punny, when I was young, we never had a Succah hop. We had a Succah crawl. I think that must be an English phrase, based on a pub crawl. You go from place to place, drinking from pub to pub. But we've now got a Succah hop. That's much livelier.
I have to tell you that here in America, we like to sanitize everything. And therefore, we've sanitized the word crawl, which sounds rather sordid, into the word hop. Hop, a skip, and a drink. It's a little bit more civilized. I'm going to hand over because I know that you are here representing a very interesting organization called the Commonwealth Jewish Council. You're going to say a little bit about that and introduce our first guest, which we've got guests from all over the world, as our viewers are going to find out. But the Commonwealth Jewish Council federates communities across the globe. Any community that is in a country that was formerly part of the British Empire, of course, besides the United States. But I'll hand over to you, Clive, to say a little bit more about that.
Well, you're right, Penny. The United States hasn't yet joined the Commonwealth, but, we can wait. And it's not only places from the British Empire, as you're going to find out later on. For example, we've got Mozambique, which used to be a Portuguese colony, and that's a member of the Commonwealth. But yes, there are about 40 communities across the Commonwealth, ranging from really big ones like Canada or South Africa, and all the way down to little tiny, teeny things in Sri Lanka or wherever. We're going to meet a few of those during this Succah hop. And of course, we brought in the big guns. You've got America and Israel and the UK, which based this whole thing. So we're really going to see a lot of the globe. And any viewer of this, by the way, if you're expecting any geographical common sense, abandon it now. We are not only hopping, we are dotting about. We're going from continent to continent. There's no real order. And of course, that's exactly how Sukkot should be. There's no real proper planning to any of it. You never know what's going to happen next. And here we are with the Sukkah hop. And we're going to go first to India. That's one of the oldest Jewish communities in the world, and very rich in its history, and still a very exciting, engaging little community. Indian Jews all over the world, but still in India. And that's where we're going to go first. Well, I'm really pleased that we got here with us Ralph Girard, a good friend of ours from Mumbai. Anybody who's been to Mumbai already, you'll know Ralphie, because everybody does. He is the Mr. Fix-It and universal connector for Indian Jewry. Ralphie, how is it there in India during Sukkot? Nice weather or rain or what happens?
Absolutely nice weather. Chag Sameach from Mumbai to all my friends in the Commonwealth Jewish Community Council for a global Sukkah hop. We have a beautiful weather, and believe me, in the COVID-19 times, Sukkah is the right place to be in. It's open, sanitized, you can be socially distanced, and you can eat whatever is brought because generally it is made of fruits.
So this is well planned. Good. And we know that India generally is feeling quite challenged by COVID-19, but the Sukkah is open in the synagogue, is that right? I mean, you have a beautiful synagogue in Mumbai. You've got several. One of them has just recently been done up, and that has a Sukkah in it, does it?
So we have 10 synagogues in Mumbai, out of which 7 of them have Sukkah, and we have one mobile Sukkah, of course, made by the Chabad on a truck, so that you just call and it comes to your door. Sukkah on the wheel.
That's great. And what about things like lulav and etrogim? Can you do those grow in India? How do you get hold of those?
So it's a right question. We are very fortunate that many synagogue gardens are full of these trees of etrogim, and I arrange for some of the communities, including not only the regular communities such as our community in Ahmedabad, but also Bombay and some community in the emerging Erode, which is called the Bene Ephraim. They were able to get Succah, which I got my friends in Delhi to go and pluck from the trees in the Yeruham synagogue and post it directly to these communities. You will be happy to know that all arrangements of etrog and other things were done in this fashion, even in COVID-19 times.
Ralphie, if anybody is going to do it, you're going to be the man. I'm looking forward to the Indian etrog export market. I think lots of people might want to have your etrogim, so you can get on to building up an export market for etrogim. It's very seasonal. Nobody's interested in the other 51 weeks of the year, but this week you can charge what you like for an etrog.
So here is an etrog. I am honoring Clive Lloyd with this etrog, and may the blessings of the etrog go to all those who have made this worldwide chuppah hop possible.
Amen, amen. Well, Ralphie, it's been lovely to meet you. Lovely to see you again. Please God, we'll meet again in Mumbai when travel becomes a bit easier. But thanks so much for joining us, and Chag Sameach to all the Jews of India.
You see, with the blessing, the etrog became bigger. Can you imagine? In such a short time. So this is the miracle of Succah, and the festival brings happiness to all the Jews around the world. And we are very lucky to be part of this global Succah hop organized by the Commonwealth Jewish Council. Clive, thank you very much. Rabbi Danner and all those who are participating, I wish you all the best. Just because the time is approaching the midnight, I will go off the scene and enjoy the Succah hop.
Time for you to sleep. Thank you, Ralphie.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. The next community, as you know, Clive, which you're going to introduce, is even more British than the UK. But I'll leave you to explain that, and you know a lot about this community, and it's really very wonderful that they are being included in this Succah hop.
Yeah, I'm very excited about Gibraltar. It's a little tiny dot on the end of Spain. It's not an island. Some people think it is. Actually, it's a peninsula. It's fixed to Gibraltar, and it's nearly all rock mountain. But there's a little bit of land, and in that little bit of land, they've crammed about 30,000 people, and a good proportion of those are Jews. And we're going to hear from this fabulous community. Why am I so enthusiastic about it? My mum was a Gibraltarian. So I still have a lot of family there, but it's a community that anybody would do wisely to visit and get to know.
Chag Sameach, Shalom. My name is Chaim Levy. I'm also known as James Levy. I am a lawyer and I'm the president of the Managing Board Jewish Community in Gibraltar, which is the umbrella organization for the Gibraltar community. Chag Sameach to you all. I'm speaking from my Sukkah. I'm so grateful to my friend Rabbi Pini Duna and my other friend and Gibraltarian colleague Clive Lawton, and indeed the Commonwealth Jewish Council for this opportunity to say hello to you in this wonderful project.
Good afternoon from Gibraltar and Chag Sukkot Sameach. I am Malen Hassan Naon. I am a member of Parliament in Gibraltar, and we love this time of year when Sukkot and all the Sukkahs are proudly displayed across Gibraltar, and we even have some competitions sometimes where people go around and vote for the most exclusive and creative Sukkah. I love this time of year because it reminds us about how important it is to have humility and remind ourselves that we are really nothing without HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and how transient everything is. And these are the values that we learn in Sukkot. And this is something that I think at this very moment in time is so apt, considering our vulnerability with this global pandemic that we're facing. It's important now more than ever to remember that we are in God's hands, that we have to take all the right advice from our leaders, from our spiritual leaders, from the medical profession, in order to make sure that ourselves and our loved ones are always safe and well taken care of. So I wish you all, from this wonderful community of ours, very diverse, Sephardi-based community, which has been sitting in Gibraltar for over 300 years now. We wish you the very best for this wonderful Chag. Remember our values, remember who we are, remember what we stand for, and always be a Kiddush Hashem wherever you are. I'm wishing you all much safety, much health and happiness.
Hello, my name is Mesot Belilo. I'm speaking to you from Gibraltar, where we have this Jewish community, and you're inside my Sukkah. In 1834, when a census of the population was taken, 30% of the civilian population of Gibraltar was made up by Jews. And that is a very high percentage. Even today, if you take the proportion of Jews in any particular country compared to the total population, obviously Israel is the highest in the world. But the second highest in the world is Gibraltar.
It's a saying in Spanish, siempre se hizo, or nunca se vio. Siempre se hizo means it was always been done like this, so we must continue to do this way. Or nunca se vio, it was never done, and therefore you can't change a tradition. The community is strong, the community is unified. They have some of the piyutim, some of the liturgical poems and songs are sung in Ladino and Spanish. To me, I was taken by this. It's really remarkable and wonderful. And it's interesting when you see so much of Europe around us, particularly Spain, being a little bit barren today in terms of Jewish communities, and this community growing. It's strong, it's incredible, it's well accepted by the wider community as well. The Jewish community contributes tremendously to the wider community, is close to the government, is often involved in charitable works outside of the community as well. I think these things are remarkable, I think they are unique, and I think they are an example really to other Jewish communities around the world.
This Sukkot, I'm lucky enough to be with my family here in Gibraltar, and it's been a wonderful experience. Sukkot in Gibraltar has always been a special holiday because the weather is still wonderful enough that you can enjoy. And I'll never forget that people in Gibraltar don't really have gardens, but they have rooftops. And in every rooftop in town, you can see and you can hear everybody singing at the same time. And that feeling of communality, I think, is even more important this year when people have been isolated. To hear that everybody's having a similar experience, and even if we're separate, we're still together in song and in celebration. So Chag Sukkot Sameach.
I take this opportunity of wishing the whole of Kahal Israel a very Chag Sameach for Sukkot, and we would receive you to visit Gibraltar with open arms. You'd be very welcome here. Chag Sameach.
I told you it was a great community, didn't I? Go along and visit, everybody. Go see them. And now, if you're following our brilliant geographical movement, we were in India. The natural next place is Gibraltar. So, of course, we're going to Africa. Keep up. And in Africa, I mentioned before, Mozambique is part of the Commonwealth. That's remarkable. And we're going to be visiting the capital of Mozambique, Maputo. And then after that, we're going to Uganda with a remarkable Jewish community, which only came into being 100 years ago, when the leader of this clan decided that Christianity just didn't make sense. Judaism was the obvious thing. And ever since then, they've been developing themselves Jewishly. They've been converting, they've been building synagogues, and they've established the Abuyataya, which means the lovers of Judah. We're going to visit them as well. But first of all, to Maputo, Mozambique.
Hello and welcome to Juan Dalim and our beautiful synagogue here in Maputo, and I'm going to take you to our Sukkah. Hola, Joaquim. Here is our Succah in Maputo, Mozambique.
Shalom from Mozambique. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kedeshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu al nitilat lulav.
And then we'll show you our own homegrown etrog.
From Kahal Kadosh, Sharit Israel, Uganda. It's an Orthodox community that we are among the Abadaya communities that we are celebrating Sukkot on Friday. So we have built our Sukkah as a remembrance, as our traditional, that during the children of Israel, when they were in the Mimbidibar, in the wilderness, in the desert, they had no materials to build beautiful houses. So here we are building our Sukkah so that we can live in, study Torah in, have services in, and also celebrate our Sukkot. So thank you so much from Uganda.
Aga Sameach. My name is Elisha Higenyi. I'm the spiritual leader of Kahal Kadosh, Sha'arit Israel, Uganda community. With Scott, as we always know, it is a mitzvah to pray in Sukkah, to sit in Sukkah, and also have a meal in Sukkah. Our Sukkah, we always build it using the natural materials. Like you can see, these are fresh leaves of bananas and the trees, and we have the papyrus, which is acting like a loaf. I wish the camera could show that, but the cameraman is behind. One of our traditions is on Scott, the community gathers, and we have one single meal as a sign which shows the unity of the Jewish people in Uganda, as well as in diaspora and the entire world. When we come together on the festivals, it shows that Jewish people, we are together and we work together and we love one another. On Scott, as you may understand, we live in a diaspora, and here we don't have like things to do with the Sukkah that we use to celebrate Sukkah, like etrog, lulav, etc, etc. So you find that we always use lemons instead of etrog, because we don't have etrogos here. And with lulav, we use the palm leaves that we always use in our Sukkah while celebrating.
I want to tell you briefly about our community. Our community is full of young, energetic members. We are about 250 members, and that's roughly 50 families. We are subsistence farmers who live who depend on agriculture. So yeah, we do farming and some secular education.
Anio evota Israel Ami. Shalom, shalom. Hag Sameach. Wanani Esau. I'm the president of Jewish community Marom, Uganda. It's the only Jewish community in the capital of Uganda. First of all, I want to give you a brief history of the Abayudaya in Uganda. Abayudaya is a Ugandan name or a local word that means the sons of Judah. So Abayudaya literally means the Jews in Uganda. Judaism began in Uganda way back in 1919. Right now, I'm a fifth generation Jew since my grandparents. Right now, as we talk, we have about 8 different Jewish communities.
I wish everyone Hag Sameach, and I invite you to come and visit us in Uganda.
It's great stuff, isn't it? Did you see those campulanas? These are the cloths that Mozambican women use for everything. They wear them, they carry their babies in them, they carry their shopping in them, and now we know they make Sukkot out of them. And it's a reminder, isn't it? It's such a reminder that in some parts of the world, trying to live a Jewish life is a real struggle. You know, you can't get an etrog, you have to make do with a lemon. Or indeed, under Idi Amin, that Abu Yadaya community really did suffer for its Jewishness in the face of him. And
I said that this program was going to be a mood booster. I can't believe that anybody watched those last 2 videos and didn't end watching it with a smile on their face. What a refreshing insight into the life of Jews in places well beyond our comfort zones and our Western world lives. Incredible, absolutely incredible.
It's wonderful. And we're going to dot off now to another dot in the middle of the world. So keep up, everybody. I hope this geography isn't driving you crazy. We are going to jump into the middle of the Atlantic. I hope we don't get lost, because we're going to Bermuda, the heart of the Bermuda Triangle. And straight after Bermuda, which is a little tiny rock island, basically, or collection of islands in probably closer to Toronto than any other Jewish community, but a long way from anywhere. After Bermuda, we're going to go to the great community of Sydney, Australia. So that's swinging right around the other side of the world. We'll be in the Pacific then, rather than the Atlantic. But Bermuda first, tiny community. Sydney next, great community. It's not the number of Jews, it's the quality of them. I hope you'll enjoy meeting both of them.
My name is Fiona Elkinson, and I am from the Jewish community of Bermuda. I'm the president and chairperson. We have very few Jewish people in Bermuda, only 120, but we have a very active Hebrew school, and the children really love to come. Up to 12 years ago, the Jewish community was nomadic. We met in different hotels, different clubs, and people's homes. But 11 years ago, very, very proudly, we managed to get the Jewish Community Center. And here we're standing in the sanctuary, and this is our Aron Kodesh, and this is our Ten Commandments and our Ner Tamid, and this is where we read the Torah. We actually do have a Torah, which was donated to the Jewish community more than 30 years ago, because it was here when I arrived 32 years ago. Historically, Bermuda had its Jewish community at the base, the naval base, but it closed, and so we didn't have a place. And now we have a Jewish community center, which consists of the sanctuary, a classroom, a kitchen, and a stage, which we use for meetings. Our community here are very proud, and we have a very active Hebrew school with lots of children who are going to dance for you while they're in the Sukkah. Hag Sameach, happy Sukkot. We're delighted to share with all of the islands our Jewish Community Center and our Sukkah. Thank you so much. Hi everyone, welcome to Bermuda. This is the Bermuda Jewish community. Show them the building. Back to me. This is the Jewish Community Center in Bermuda, and this is our sukkah that we built for Sukkot. And these are our lulabs. let me introduce you to the children. They're going to say,
welcome to Bermuda!
Say it again.
Welcome to Bermuda!
And welcome to our Succah.
Welcome to our Succah!
Right, and here is Cheryl and Francine, our helper teachers, and here we have the children. Who are you?
Tucker and I'm 7.
And who are you?
I'm Harrison and I'm 6.
And who are you?
I'm Ellis and I'm 10 and Tucker's my brother.
Great.
And she's my very annoying sister. I'm Ruby and I'm 10. I'm Charlie and I'm 11. I'm Jonah and I'm 7.
Okay, Ryan, look at the camera.
My name is Ryan and I'm 4.
Go, Ava.
My name is Ava and how old I am is 7.
Good girl. Eva, talk to the camera.
My name is Eva. I am 5 years old.
And Harry?
My name is Harry and I'm 7. I mean
8. She's 7, I mean 8. So, back to me. We are going to sing for you or dance for you a Succah song for Sukkot. We all have our lulabs. Who would like a little lulav?
Me!
All right, Ryan, you take that for the first one. Tucker, take the lulav, take the etrog. Are we ready for the song? Where's the song?
Here.
Turn the song on. And we're going to shake the lulav song. Everyone stand up. Can you hear it? Shake your lulav. Ready for shake the lulav?
Everybody.
Shake, shake, shake.
Careful.
Everybody. Shake, shake, shake. Everybody. Shake, shake, shake. Everybody. Shake. Da 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 da. Say goodbye from Bermuda. Say bye from Bermuda.
Hello, I'm Rabbi Elton from the Great Synagogue in Sydney, and I want to welcome you to the Succah of the Great Synagogue. Let me tell you something about our community and its history, and then talk about the Succah and the synagogue in particular. The Jews of Australia are one of the very few communities in the world that can trace their origins very specifically and definitely, because around 16 Jews arrived on the first fleet of convicts that arrived in Sydney Harbour on the 26th day of January 1788. That was the foundation of the penal colony and included 15 criminals who were Jewish and 1 babe in arms. Now, for the first 30 years or so of their time in Australia, they didn't do very much that was Jewish. They weren't very educated or very observant. They were Fagin-type characters, really existing on the cusp of criminality and poverty. And they really got on with their lives as convicts, doing whatever they were told to do by the authorities. But eventually, a few free settlers also drifted in, and some of the Jewish convicts were emancipated, were given their freedom. And in 1817, we have the first Jewish ritual to be performed in Australia, and that's a burial. So the Chevra Kadisha, the Sydney Jewish Burial Society, somewhat fancifully dates its origins back to 1817. It just celebrated its 200th anniversary as a functioning institution. The first synagogues were founded in a somewhat modified format in the 1820s. There were no Sifrei Torah, but there were Chumashim and Sidurim, and they were used in services held in private homes. And we have in the synagogue collection a Pentateuch, a Chumash, which was used at the first service held in a private home in the 1820s. 1844, we have the first purpose-built synagogue in York Street in the centre of Sydney, with 2 Sifrei Torah brought from England to service the community, with all of their silver decorations. And in fact, the ribbonim, the finial decorations in silver from those 2 Sifrei Torah we still have in the synagogue collection. In fact, we have the Sifrei Torah as well. We're not sure which they are because we lost identification at some point in the past, but they are still in the synagogue collection. As you'd expect, there was a Broigus in the community at some point, and so a rival synagogue was established in the 1850s. But in the 1870s, they joined forces and they built the Great Synagogue. The government gave a grant of money to buy a piece of land, and the synagogue itself raised the money to create the edifice. It was designed by a Christian architect called Thomas Rowe, who was a very distinguished and busy colonial architect, and He designed all the features of the synagogue, which were manufactured around the world, here in Sydney, in Philadelphia, in England, and elsewhere. And it's still one of the very beautiful synagogues and great synagogues you can find anywhere in the world. Now, the building I'm standing in at the moment is a modern building, which is attached to the back of the original 1878 building. Originally, this bit of land had the Chevra Kadisha, and it had classrooms and a place for the beadle to live. And in the 1950s, it was turned into a full education centre and refurbished in the 1980s. And this Sukkah dates from that period. You can see above me the Succah, which is laid every year, and above that is a retractable roof. We're on the top story of the building, and the ceiling retracts, and it's open to the sky. Now, in previous years, in non-COVID years, we've used this Sukkah very extensively. On the first night, we have a communal meal. On every night and every morning of the festival, we have a kiddush here in the synagogue Sukkah. It's used for film showings. It's used by people who work in the city to go and have lunch during the week. It's a very, very busy Sukkah, decorated every year by the Women's Auxiliary and some male helpers to help put the Sukkah on top. This year, our Sukkah activities are somewhat curtailed, but there will still be Kiddushim on the nights of the festivals. We have a smaller group of people, and it's less of a COVID hazard. We're able to socially distance. The shul has done remarkably well over the COVID period. Thank God Australia was not very badly affected. There were some problems, particularly in Melbourne, but we seem to be over the worst. And so we could have up to 250 people in shul for Yom Kippur and Rosh Hashanah, and we're hoping for nice synagogue attendances also over Sukkot. And even more than that, we're looking forward to a return to full normality and an end to social distancing, an end to masks once we have a vaccine and we're all behind this. So I want to wish my friends in Beverly Hills a Chag Sameach and good health and continued recovery for those who need it. And please God, we should all be able to celebrate Sukkot in future years in full health and really enjoy this Zman Simchatenu. Chag Sameach and all good wishes.
Lovely, very lovely.
That's wonderful. We're nearly finished with the Commonwealth countries. There are two more coming up later in the show. We're going to have Britain and Canada.
I know.
But now, Penny, over to you.
I've got a special guest here, just for 1 minute, wants to say shalom to the world. He's the president of the Beverly Hills Jewish community. We've heard from Bermuda. We've heard from Mumbai. We've heard from everywhere else. He's here just to say hello and shalom on Sukkot and Chag Sameach. Steve Dorfman is his name. He's the president of our community.
Hello, everybody, and Chag Sameach. I want to wish everybody Chag Sameach here from Beverly Hills. I feel a little guilty sitting out here in the sunshine, and it's 80-degree weather, but we're enjoying it. We're trying to keep safe, and we're having a beautiful Chag. I hope everybody around the world is also. We hope that we can continue with this program in the future, where we can stay connected. Jews around the world, amazing. Everybody's celebrating Sukkot. It's amazing. It doesn't matter where you are, doesn't matter what country, what city. We're all Jews celebrating Sukkot at the same time. I want to just wish everybody a Chag Sameach. It's my pleasure to be here. It's my honor to be here. And I hope that we get to continue on with this program.
Thank you so much, Stephen. Over back to you live. Thank you.
Well, just to say now, Penny, it's we're moving over to, you're going to take the lead on this next bit. Like I say, we haven't finished completely with the Commonwealth because, of course, the UK is in the Commonwealth. Canada's coming later. But now I think you're going to pick us up here because we've got just a remarkable video coming up in just a moment. And I think you're the guy to deal with the real VIPs.
You're very kind, Clive. Thank you so much. You know that we have a great networking opportunity here for Sukkot, that we can actually we can share videos here on this incredible Sukkah hop. That we can introduce all our viewers and all those who are part of our audience to people that they would never manage to see in their Sukkah. And we have actually managed to obtain a video message from none other than the President of the State of Israel. And I have to tell you that 30 years ago or so, when I was in yeshiva, I went to visit Chaim Herzog. He was the President of Israel at the time in his Sukkah. And we're going to be hearing from his son, who is today the chairman of the Jewish Agency, Isaac Herzog, in a few moments. But before we do that, we're lucky enough to be able to hear from none other than the President of the State of Israel, Reuven Rivlin, who is a unifier and a wonderful man. I was his guest exactly a year ago at his home in Yerushalayim, and he is here to broadcast a message to all the Jews around the world for Sukkot. President Reuven Rivlin.
Dear friends, shalom to all of you from Jerusalem, the city of peace. This year we have been forced to stay apart due to the COVID, although in our hearts we feel closer than ever. However, this has also been a year of peace. The historic Abraham Accord signed by Israel and the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain can provide a model of peaceful coexistence between all people and religions in our region and around the world. Friends, I want to thank you all for all that you are doing for Israel during these difficult times. אנחנו מתפללים ואומרים כל פעם, הפורש סוכת שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ועל ירושלים. ואכן, בתקופה הזו, סוכת שלום היא ברכה חשובה במיוחד. רק כשאנחנו ביחד, תומכים אחד בשני, אנחנו יכולים לאתגרים האלה, כמו שהמגפה מציבה בפנינו כל יום. זה משהו שהעם שלנו לומד בימים הכל כך מורכבים האלה. Thank you. As we say in Hebrew, תודה רבה. And God bless all of you.
What lovely stuff.
Absolutely beautiful. You know that President Rivlin is really a wonderful man, and you should know that he is descended from the Rivlin family, which is one of the original families to go on Aliyah at the behest of the Talmidim of the Vilna Gaon at the beginning of the 1800s. He is descended from one of the most remarkable families, one of the earliest settlers, long before Zionism, long before Chovavei Tzion. The Rivlin family had established itself as one of the primary families of the Ashkenazi community in the land of Israel, and then they became deeply embedded in the state of Israel. And today, one of their sons, one of their descendants, is the President, Reuven Rivlin, of the state of Israel. So,
well, he's not only the president, he's also serving as our continuity man, because he made reference to the peace accord with the United Arab Emirates.
Yes.
And a little later on, we're actually going to go there. So he's running this whole show in together.
Absolutely. And whether it was because we queued him up on that or not, it makes no difference. It sounds personal. So, Clive, I want to take this to the next stage, because we are, in fact, privileged to have a live hookup with the state of Israel, with a very important town in the state of Israel. I know that you're connected to it. I'm very connected to it, as you'll hear. And it's the town of Yeruham in the Negev. And Yeruham is a wonderful place, not only because it's home to a mixed community of secular and religious Israelis, but because it's in the heart of the Negev. And you know that the dream of the founders of the state of Israel was to turn the Negev into a place where there would be homes and communities for thousands, tens of thousands of people. I recently wrote about the Ashalim solar park, which is providing power using the power of the sun in the Negev desert, so that the residents of the Negev can have power based on the sun, which they all bake under. But Yeruham is a wonderful community, and it's a great pleasure to welcome Tal Ohana. I don't know if she's on, but we'd like to bring her in. Tal Ohana is the mayor of Yeruham in the heart of the Negev. And if we can bring her in, we'll be able to speak to her.
Hello, everyone. I'm very happy and exciting to hear your amazing words, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm here in my Sukkah in the Negev, in the desert of Israel. We are very happy to share with you our moments. We will bless you for Moadim L'Simcha, and we'll say that we are very proud to be part of the Am Israel chain. We have wonderful relation with many Jewish communities all over the world, and for the past 10 years with Miami Jewish community. I just came back from visiting our older adults that celebrating our Piyut festival. The issue of our roots is very meaningful in our tradition. We are trying to be very connected and from that place to play in the future. I've been raised and I've born and raised here. I'm fourth generation in Yeruham. My parents came from Morocco as a children. So we are basically the pioneers of the Negev, and we are very blessed to do everything we can in order to develop that area. We are very proud and blessed to be part of this amazing community. Not easy days for the Israel states, not easy days all over the world, and especially in the periphery. We are trying to bring hope. We are trying to create trust. We are trying to build our immunity, and we are doing the best we can in order to keep our health and to trying to save lives. I hope that the Israel state will be after next week in a different place, and we will keep doing what we are using to do every day. I will use that opportunity to bless Am Israel, that we need to be together, we need to be united in order to cross that challenge. And I hope that we will find the best way to do that. I would like to bless you for doing that event and to keep that chain even that we are far. Thank you so much. And
far, I have to tell you, Tal, we are not far, we are near. Because even if we're physically apart, there's nothing more than the state of Israel and the land of Israel to keep Jews close together. We pray every day. There's nothing that keeps us together more than the land of Israel and the state of Israel. And Tal, you are a pioneer, and the city and the town of Yeruham is a pioneering town. I'm lucky enough to have a cousin actually in Yeruham. His name is David Prichen, and his wife and children. I visited them in July. I brought my son Meir, who's now a member of the IDF. He is a Chayal Boded, and we went to visit my family, the Prichen family in Yeruham. I'm very familiar with Yeruham. I think it's a wonderful town. It's an example of what it means to be a pioneering Jew in the land of Israel and the miracle of the state of Israel. And we're extremely excited that you are the, by the way, Ilana Kvartin of the Jewish Agency was the one who introduced us to you and enabled you to come on to our live broadcast here on the Sukkah Hop. And we're so delighted that you have. And I know that Clive has something to say about Yeruham.
Well, yes, anybody who knows me will know that not only am I the chief executive of the Commonwealth Jewish Council, but I'm also one of the founders of Limud. And Yeruham was one of the first places in Israel to have its own Limud Yeruham. So I visited there and worked with the team there to develop that team. And when I saw your name, Ohana Tal, I knew your family was from Morocco, because the Ohana clan, who is a magnificent and grand family from Morocco, with a deep, rich a fine history. So it's great to connect all that up together, because before you came on, we were in Gibraltar, which is just across the way from Morocco. So we're slowly sealing the world together into a single globe.
We're fusing the Jewish world into one unit. From, as we said right at the beginning, we started in Mumbai and Sydney. We're going to end in Beverly Hills, although I'm in Beverly Hills now. We're trying to fuse together all the communities of the world in this wonderful project to make sure that we're all connected. Even though we are apart as a result of COVID, as a result of the coronavirus, we nevertheless remain together. We remain connected. We remain united. We remain one community across the world, celebrating Sukkot and celebrating all the festivals and all the cultural adornments of being part of the Jewish religion, the Jewish faith, and the Jewish nation.
Amen, amen. Tal, thank you so much for joining us on this great Sukkah hop.
Thank you so much. Thank you. It's a pleasure being with you. And please send our warmest regards to family and friends.
I will, and I have a small story just to end that time. I will say that the Baba Sali one day, the Baba Sali is a big rabbi of Moroccan Jews, and he was settled in Netivot after living many years in the desert of Morocco. And one day in Sukkot, he wake up and say to his driver, I must go to Ben Gurion grave. And his driver said, Rabbi, this is Sukkot. Why to do that now? He said, I must go there. I must go there. I feel that his soul is not comfortable. And he is taking the car and going all the way to Sde Boker. But on the junction, he said, go to Yeruham. I want to eat and to bless in Sukkah, no matter where, but in Yeruham. This is a very blessed city. And he stopped by, and then he's moving to Sde Boker, and then he's coming back. And it's a big story about our tradition, about our spiritual leaders that were very connected to the Zionism, and not only for the Judaism. And we are very proud to be near Ben Gurion and with the Baba Sali tradition. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Thank you so much. Thank you. We're going to now go on to the next video, which is a video from a dear friend of mine, and I know Clive knows him as well. And that is, of course, the chairman of the Jewish Agency and the former head of the Israeli Labour Party. His name is Isaac Herzog. He's named after his grandfather, Yitzchak Isaac Halevi Herzog, the first chief rabbi of Israel. His great-grandfather was Shmuel Yitzchak Hillman. He was the Rosh Bet Din of London. And recently, I published a book together with Isaac Herzog, which is the Drashot of Shmuel Yitzchak Hillman. And we are delighted to introduce this video from the chairman of the Jewish Agency that is a partner of this program, the International Global Sukkah Hop. Please focus on the screen and let's see what Isaac Herzog has to say this Sukkot, to wish us all a Chag Sameach.
חג שמח לכל בית ישראל ולידידי הרב פיני דנר בבברלי הילס. אני משדר מסוכתי בתל אביב, אבל משדר לכל העם היהודי. הסוכה מסמלת את אחדות העם היהודי, וכך גם ארבעת המינים. ואני נזכר במאמרו של הסבא הדגול שלי, הרב יצחק אייזיק הלוי הרצוג, שקבע שהסוכה מסמלת את גדלותו וקטנותו של האדם בו זמני. כי הסכך לא יכול להיות גבוה מדי, והסוכה עצמה לא יכולה להיות נמוכה מדי. ומכאן שהאדם לא יכול להגיד אני יכול הכל, ואני כוחי ועוצם ידי, וגם לא יכול לומר אני לא מסוגל לכלום. ואנחנו חיים בעידן כזה, שבו כמו שכותב הסבא שלי, האדם מצד אחד בונה את המכונות ואת הבניינים הכי גדולים בתבל, ומצד שני חיידק קטן, דקירה קטנה, מכניסה ומשכיבה אותו בבטן האדמה, והוא בכך סיים את חייו. אז אני רוצה לאחל לכולכם רפואה שלמה, בריאות טובה, והעיקר חג שמח, שמחת בשואבה ושמחת תורה, שכן אין שמחה כשמחת התורה. חג שמח to all of you. I'm broadcasting to all of you from my sukkah in Tel Aviv. I want to wish all the best to my good friend Rabbi Pini Danner from Beverly Hills, who initiated this beautiful idea. And we are celebrating Chag Sameach because now we also have a Sukkah Shalom, a Sukkah of peace, in Dubai and in the Emirates. Well, the Sukkah symbolizes the unity of Israel and the love of Israel. And Arbat Aminim combine all facets of Israel. And I recall my grandfather's, Rabbi Isaac Halevi Herzog Zatzal, first chief rabbi of Israel's article, where he compared the Sukkah to the greatness and smallness of a person, of man. Because he said, on the one hand, you can't have too high a Sukkah, and on the other hand, you can't have too low a Sukkah. Actually, a human being should not think he knows it all. And on the other hand, should not be so humiliated that he can't do anything. And we are indeed living in an era which is epitomized in my grandfather's article, where he said man is so tiny that despite his ability to conquer the world, he, with one little virus, one little disease, falls into the abyss and is buried in the sand. Well, we live in a very unique era, and I want to wish all of you happy Sukkot, good health here from Israel, and may we all see each other again in Israel as soon as possible. All the best to you.
Wasn't that lovely? And they, again, Bushi, his friends call him Bushi, right, Isaac? Bushi's also pushing us towards Dubai. They must have read the program already. They're ahead of us.
Oh, you know what? It's all been very well planned. I'd like to believe that, but you know the truth.
I would like to say, by the way, Penny, just before you come in, I would have loved to have filmed in my Sukkah. I'm feeling a bit embarrassed now that everybody else is in their Sukkot, but it's dark out there now, and it's simply not light enough for me to be in it. But it's just outside the house.
You know, we have a
Back
Sukkah
to you,
in
Penny.
Bristol. The fact that there is a Sukkah in Bristol, which is the westernmost, it's just before Wales. We've been there, and we know that Isambard Kingdom Brunel built the suspension bridge there, one of the first suspension bridges in the world. So we know that you have a Sukkah in Bristol, and we know that you are holding the fort for the Jewish community of the world by making sure that there are those who observe Sukkot in Bristol.
Amen.
So I want to introduce my dear friend David Sweetso, who's the president and the editor-in-chief of the Jewish Journal, one of our partners on the Global Sukkah Hop. He's going to be part of this Dubai segment. I just want to mention the fact, and I spoke about it on Yom Kippur, that we are living in in extraordinary times. And we're very focused on the negative, but as you know, this program is all about the positive. The negative is COVID-19 and the effect it's having on the world. The positive is that Jews are seeing huge changes in the Middle East. And the UAE and Bahrain have made peace with Israel. We know that there's another 2 Arab countries which are hovering in the background to make peace with Israel. We also know that MBS, as he's known, in Saudi Arabia, is going to make peace with Israel, whether it happens this year or next year. We know it's going to happen. And although this year we don't yet have a sukkah in Riyadh, we know that in future years we will have a sukkah in Riyadh. But this year we have a sukkah in Dubai. Incredibly, I spoke to Rabbi Dachman, and he is now live, so let's bring him on. And we're going to ask David Suissa to talk to Rabbi Dachman, and who is in his sukkah in Dubai. And the Middle East is a changing location. And we're going to talk to Rabbi Dachman to find out what it is like to be a Jew in Dubai in the year 2020. Rabbi Dachman, welcome to our program.
Hello, thank you, Moadim L'Simcha. Thank you very much. Greetings and blessings from Dubai, from the UAE. Thank you, Rabbi Donner. And thank you for everyone for hosting our lovely sukkah here in Dubai.
Rabbi Dachman, Shalom Aleichem, it's David Suissa. I'm very close to the Rebbe.
Very, very nice. Very nice to meet you.
One of the things that Chabad brings to the world is the dance between darkness and light. And I think we've seen it this year more than ever, that in a year of real darkness, there have been moments of light. And for me, being in a sukkah is a moment of light when I know that there are storms outside. But when I enter the sukkah, I'm reminded of what really counts the most in my life. And one of the rays of light we've had this year is this peace between Israel and Arab countries, including the one where you are in right now. So please share with us your sentiments of what it feels like, because you've been there for a while now. And what is it like now that you're completely out in the open? Because it used to be that it was a hidden message, but now it's out in the open. Tell us what it's like to be the shliach in Dubai.
Well, it's quite incredible. As you mentioned, I've been here already for quite some time, for 6 years. And this year's Sukkot in Dubai is something different, something special. As you mentioned, ever since the Abrahamic Accord signing between Israel and the United Arab Emirates, things have been really, really great. To be quite honest, for the past few years, we've always had everything we needed, and we had Sukkot in Dubai, and the authorities and His Highness Mohammed bin Zayed was always very welcoming to our Jewish community, and we always had their full support. But of course now, after the Abrahamic Accord, the feeling is different. So like you mentioned about the storms going into your sukkah, we feel the whole Dubai became actually a sukkah and a wonderful place where there's friendship, there's people looking to work together, and it's really something special. We're at the beginning of a real new era for the two countries, and I believe for the whole Middle East. So it's quite exciting.
I've never been more grateful to be a Jew than this year. If I wasn't a Jew, every day would be Groundhog Day. But because I'm a Jew, I'm forced to take these holy timeouts because I'm doing Shabbat. So every Shabbat, I have the opportunity to reflect and to contemplate on the things that matter most. And Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and now Sukkot, we are blessed to have these moments when we can take these timeouts in a year that's had more turmoil. As a journalist, I can tell you, I've never seen anything that comes close to this year. And what's kept me going is my Jewish connection, these moments when I can sit inside a sukkah where I'm called upon to have the utmost joy in a time when nobody is feeling joy right now. And this is a great blessing to be a Jew. And I know that there are shluchim around the world that are trying to bring that simcha and the mitzvah of being inside a sukkah. And you're right up there, Rabbi Dachman. We're proud of you.
Thank you very, very much for giving the opportunity. As you see, our sukkah here is designed like an Arabic majlis. I'm going to show you on the video the style sukkah that we have here in Dubai, and it's quite exciting. We just finished a wonderful event where we had sushi in the sukkah with the entire community. So who would ever think that we have the strong, vibrant community here in the United Arab Emirates? And thank you again for hosting us.
You're taking a page out of Beverly Hills. That's what we do, Sushi. So
we are delighted that you've joined us. We're delighted to be able to connect with a new Jewish community, the Jewish community of Dubai. And we know that the Middle East is a changing place. And we appreciate the fact that there's now Sukkot in Dubai and there's Sukkot in Abu Dhabi. We didn't get to that Sukkah. And hopefully there'll be more Sukkot in the Arab world over the coming years. Rabbi Dachman, we look forward
Inshallah.
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 Right. We look forward to visiting you. Clive,
thank you.
David and myself, we're all coming to visit you in Dubai and wherever you are.
And you know, my ancestors were in an Arab country for centuries, in Morocco.
Oh, wow.
I was going to say, Suissah, David, the Suissahs are another great Moroccan family.
Thank you. Thank you.
This Maghribi?
To me, the first shliach of the Rebbe came in 1960, 4 blocks from my house in Casablanca.
Oh, wow.
So this is a very special meaning for me, that this is being visible.
Wonderful.
What's special for me is before living in the UAE, I lived in Morocco for 3 years.
Wow.
So I also have a strong relationship with Morocco and the community there. Well, thank you very much for this great opportunity. And we look forward for our sukkah growing, like Rabbi Dunner said, in many other countries, and really building a sukkahs all around. So thank you very, very much.
Amen.
Mo'adim l'simcha.
Chag Sameach.
Amen.
You know,
Clive,
Penny, this is just marvelous, because when you think about it, you know, we've talked about how COVID-19 has been such a terrible downer for the world, but there are 1 or 2 things which are uppers in this. We would never have been doing this, I think, had it not been for COVID-19. We learned how to connect up electronically. And, you know, you said to find a new community in Dubai. It's not new. It's been there 10 years, right? It's been established. It's emerged. We found it, but it's been there. And the same thing when we saw Ugandan Jewish community. It's been there 100 years, but we found it. And so one of the things that COVID has done for all of us, actually, is that it's broken down the walls. It's made the world a sukkah. We're all outside now. We have no boundaries, we have no borders, and we can connect up all around. I mean, it's just great to see. I didn't expect to see David Suissah here. It's just great to see him here. Chag Sameach to you, David.
I have to tell you, Clive, one of the most powerful things I've ever said to my kids regarding their Jewish identity is when I do the Kiddush Friday night, I say, could you imagine that 1,000 years ago in a little village in Morocco, our ancestors were also doing this Friday night Shabbat, and all around the world, Jews were doing Friday night Shabbat and reading from the same Torah scroll and being in a sukkah. The amazing thing about this year is that nothing has changed, but because of technology, we're able to see that.
Yeah,
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
And the lecture you gave on resiliency, I've been quoting you often, so I want to just give you a little click of it. Yeah.
Thank you for that. Penny, we've been trailing Dubai now, and we've now seen it. But we're going to go next to a fabulous Jewish community. Penny, you know it's fabulous because you were there. Benny Dunner was, for those of you who are not old enough to remember, he was the rabbi of the Succah synagogue in London. Very exciting place to be. And then he deserted us. But the UK Jewish community has continued to thrive. And so we are going to go over to the UK. And of course, the United Synagogue has been behind much of this development. So let's get to the UK. We're going to meet Joe Gross, who is from the United Synagogue. And over to you, Joe.
Thank you so much, Clive and Rabbi Dunner. And I was in Succah Synagogue 20 odd years ago, so it's nice to see you again on the screen. Welcome to the UK. What a journey so far, and actually what a privilege to come straight after Dubai. So it might not surprise you to hear that it's been a bit rainy here over Sukkot. In fact, it poured with rain over Yom Tov, and also it's dark here, so apologies that we're not in my Sukkah. But none of this has dampened our spirits. We may not this year be able to pile into the Shul Sukkah as we normally would do for Kiddush, but our communities have responded with remarkable ingenuity. They have been organising travelling Sukkot on the back of trucks, drive-through Sukkah parties with takeaway food and music and magic, virtual learning with cocktails delivered to your door, and pop-up restaurants with Sukkah bubbles. So we've been super busy over here. On our UK stint tonight, we're going to take you to Glasgow in Scotland. We're going to go to Bevis Synagogue, the oldest synagogue in the UK, and the Jewish Museum London. In fact, I thought that there was going to be an object popping up on the screen. There it is, like magic. You'll see on the screen an object in front of you. This is one of the many artifacts that's on display at the Jewish Museum. And the challenge tonight for you is to guess what this might be. And so we ask you to please submit your guesses in the comments box, and all will be revealed a little later on. For now, however, it is my real pleasure to introduce you to the Chief Rabbi of the United Hebrew Congregations of the Commonwealth, Chief Rabbi Ephraim Bevis.
Chag Sameach to you all. I'm delighted to extend my very best wishes to all of you during this COVID-affected Sukkot time. And a huge Yesher Koach congratulations to the Hampstead Synagogue, which has been the inspiration for this event right now, the prime organizers, together with the United Synagogue, the Commonwealth Jewish Council, the Beverly Hills Jewish community, and so many other communities around the globe. So lovely to have you all with us at this precious time. Now, you know that in the annals of the history of the United Synagogue, a sukkah has pride of place. The United Synagogue is celebrating its 150th anniversary this year. And in 1866, one of my illustrious predecessors, Chief Rabbi Nathan Marcus Adler, summoned to his sukkah in Finsbury Square, London, the heads of the Jewish community at that time, and he wanted to speak to them about a concept of bringing the major synagogues together in order to form one united synagogal body. That meeting in his sukkah in 1866 sowed the seeds for the creation of the United Synagogue, which was founded 4 years later. I have no doubt that Chief Rabbi Adler was blessed that year with far better weather than we are being blessed with in London during Sukkot this year. I'm sure he was able to sit at a table inside his sukkah as opposed to me only being able to stand at the entrance to my rain-drenched sukkah at this time. Sukkot for me presents a very powerful and relevant message, not just for us, but for our entire world right now. That is because Sukkot uniquely brings together the particular and the universal. What do I mean? Sukkot is particularly Jewish. It is all about our faith, the experience of dwelling in the sukkah, the taking of the four kinds. In temple times, you had the celebration of the drawing of water and so on. And Sukkot is a symbol of Jewish pride because it's the one mitzvah you cannot hide from the world. By definition, the sukkah must be open to the elements. It has to be visible in order to be kosher. You cannot have an underground sukkah. It would be pasul, it wouldn't be kosher. So Sukkot is all about our statement to the world, we are Jewish and we're proud of it. At the same time, Sukkot has a very strong universal theme. In temple times, 70 sacrifices of cows were brought through the 7 days of the festival to symbolize the 70 original nations which were formed immediately after the debacle of the Tower of Babel. So Sukkot is all about the fact that while being uniquely Jewish and different from others, we're also part of the world around us, and we want to bring a blessing for all of humankind. And that actually is a very apposite message for all of us right now. During the coronavirus, we have the responsibility to look after ourselves as individuals, as families, as communities, and at the same time, we have a responsibility to all of humankind, because If we look after ourselves, we're looking after others. If we are reckless and irresponsible with our own health, we present, God forbid, a danger to others. And I'm proud of our communities right across the globe for all of your initiatives during coronavirus and for the responsibility that you are showing. And it's part of that innovative and creative spirit which has led to this event right now. So thank you for joining us. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to participate. May our coronavirus challenges be behind us, please God, soon. May our world be blessed with good health and prosperity and a bright future. Thank you so much for being part of this event. Chag Sameach to you all.
And thank you to the Chief Rabbi. And I think you got an insight there into the glorious weather that we've been experiencing here. Don't forget, the object is on the screen, so keep your guesses coming. As you may know, there are approximately 290,000 Jews living in the UK, and we're a vibrant, diverse community, fortunate to be served by a wide range of charities, organisations and institutions, all of whom I have to say have been working flat out to support our community over the last few very challenging months. We're going to visit one such institution now, the Jewish Museum London, based in Camden Town, and we're going to meet Fran Jeans, director of the museum, along with Gabriel Herman, chair of Hampstead Synagogue. So over to the museum.
Well, good evening from the Jewish Museum London here in Camden Town. Just one quick correction, co-chair Joe, otherwise I'll get into trouble. But thank you very much, and thank you, Joe. So yes, we are here at the Jewish Museum London with Fran Jeans, who is the museum director. And Fran, I'm a bit puzzled here. You said to me, come and look inside my sukkah, but I'm looking around and I can't see a sukkah. Can you explain what's going on?
Great. So yeah, welcome to Jewish Museum London here, and we're in the galleries actually. So what you'll be able to see behind me is some of the 40,000 items we have in the collection. And we thought, how can we participate in the most global, the biggest ever Sukkah hop that we've ever seen? And we thought, well, why don't we do something a little bit special and invite you into potentially the smallest Sukkah in the world. So behind me, just here, you'll be able to see a really small miniature Sukkah. But if you come in nice and closer and closer, with some power of Doctor Who technology, we're going to go and meet my colleague Shireen inside, and she's going to give you a tour of the potentially smallest ever Sukkah in the world.
Hello there, hello, and welcome inside our mini model Succah. It is so lovely to see you here. You are our very first visitors. My name is Shireen, and I look forward to taking you around our Succah today. Now, although this Succah finds its home in the Jewish Museum London's gallery, it actually dates back to the 1930s. It may seem quite big from where you're standing, but in actual fact, it is only 12.5 centimetres high, 8.5 centimetres wide, and 11 centimetres deep. It has silver gilt doors and a ceiling that raises, so we are able to see the stars above. Now let's take a look at our table. As you can see, it is ready for our Sukkot meal. On our table, there are 7 bowls, each with a spoon inside. There are 2 candlesticks standing tall, and of course, a jug of wine. If you look closely above me, you should be able to see fruit and vegetables festooning our Sukkah ceiling. But there is something that perhaps you can't see from where you're standing. On the walls, on either side of me, there are actually 2 portraits. One of the portraits is of a very well-known businessman, Sir Moses Montefiore. Now, Sir Moses Montefiore was a businessman, a broker, and a very well-known and passionate humanitarian of the 1930s, fighting tirelessly for the rights of persecuted Jews around the world. And then there's another portrait, a portrait of the well-known Lord Nathaniel Mayer Rothschild, known for many things, including advocating for the East End scheme. Now, this was a scheme set up in the Jewish East End to support the spiritual and physical welfare of the Jewish East Enders of the 1930s and 40s. Now, that's enough from me today, but on your way out, make sure that you look at the Hebrew inscription above the door. It reads, "In this sukkah you shall sit for 7 days," as I'm sure many of you did in your own sukkah. But for now, bye-bye. Back to the Jewish Museum London's gallery.
Well, we should explain, and I think that's probably a giveaway, that we are actually socially distancing here in the same room, and that's why you're getting that little bit of an echo there. But so I should explain that. So now, what we're going to do is have a look at this mystery item, this mystery object which you see at the bottom right hand of your screen. Keep guessing, by the way, because we're going to bring a panel now, and hopefully this is going to work. We're going to go to my synagogue, the Hampstead Synagogue, and waiting for us there, hopefully, are our panel. So can we now go over to Hampstead Synagogue? And we should be picking up. Oh, yes, lovely. I'm sorry, I shouldn't laugh. We're nice and warm and dry here. But I can see that our rabbi is in the sukkah. And Madeline, you got the short straw, and so you're in the shawl.
I don't think that's the short straw. I've got the warm building.
Okay. So
hello, Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach to our Rabbi Michael Harris, and to Madeline, who is the co-chair with me of Hampstead Synagogue. And Fran, perhaps you can answer some of the questions from Madeline and Rabbi to see if they can guess what our mystery object is.
It does look like a space object, doesn't it? It doesn't look like a typical Jewish item at all. So,
I have, sorry.
Go on.
No, go on, Madeline, please.
I was going to ask how old it is.
Well, it's quite a recent object, less than 20 years old.
Thank you. Rabbi Harris?
I have 3 guesses.
Oh, excellent. Go on then.
My first guess is that it's for a piece of Toblerone.
You're not a million miles off, but carry on.
My second guess is Sukkot themed, and I wonder if it's for a triangular etrog. It looks a bit like an etrog box, but it's the wrong shape. And my third and most serious guess is it a box for besamim, for the spices we use at Havdalah?
Oh, really, really good guesses. And I saw some extra ones coming in on the chat as well, which are really good guesses. Actually, your middle guess is absolutely right. So the one with the least confidence in, it is actually a modern, sort of very contemporary etrog box. So part of what we do at the museum is we do something called contemporary collecting. So it's all about collecting objects that are sort of about how modern day British Jewry might have items in their homes and in their synagogues. So this piece is only 20 years old. It was created in 2001, and actually it breaks in half. So you can see here on the screen now how it opens. So you can place the etrog inside, and then it has cut into it the blessings for the fruit. So you can actually almost, if you can see all the Hebrew, it gives you a little bit more of a giveaway. But this piece was created by an artist called Mila Tanya Gribel, and she's a very well-known sort of silversmith for Judaica. In fact, there are people in our audience who might have items in their own synagogue collections, because I know she has pieces in Brighton and Hove here in the UK, but also in the Skirball Museum, I think that's how I pronounce it, in Los Angeles, and at the Temple Judea Museum in Philadelphia. So her work is really across the world. And I think what we're doing here is, by collecting these sort of contemporary items, we're showing both the historical narrative of British Jews, but also how things might be a little bit different today. But it's definitely not one I've ever seen before in that sort of very contemporary style. So great guessing on all fronts on that one.
Thank you.
Very strange etrog shape.
Very strange etrog.
To put in there. new variety. Okay, thank you, Fran.
Thank you, Fran.
Thank you very much, Michael and Madeline. Michael, you get the prize. I don't know what the prize is, but we'll think of that. And well done to everybody for guessing. Some people got it right, so well done to you. And if you're in London, please do make a visit to the Jewish Museum London. It really is a wonderful museum. But for now, we're going to go over to Rabbi. You've got to go into the warm now. We're going over back to
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you to everyone at the Jewish Museum. And I'll reiterate what Gabriel said, once you're all allowed to travel and can travel to us in London, I'd highly recommend a visit. Thanks also to the wonderful leadership team of Hampstead Synagogue. So from one synagogue to another, it gives me particular pleasure now to take us to the Spanish and Portuguese Bevis Synagogue. And I say this because whilst I'm Communities Director of the United Synagogue, which is of the Ashkenaz tradition, actually my mum's maiden name was Pereira Mendoza, so the Spanish and Portuguese shawls are very close to my heart. Bevis is the oldest synagogue in the UK, and it was first opened in 1701, and it's situated right in the heart of the City of London. And remarkably, it's run services on its site for over 300 years. And I think that's the only synagogue in Europe to have been able to do this. So we're going to find out a little more about it. And I'm going to take you now to Rabbi Shalom Morris.
I'm so pleased now to welcome you inside of our Sukkah. Our Sukkah has been decorated with fruits. It's the harvest festival. And so all the fruits that we've hung from the Sukkah, from the roof of the Sukkah, are all types of fruits that grow here in England. And so we have apples and pears and plums and cherries and grapes. And it's a way of celebrating the bounty of the harvest. But what we've also done is decorate the Sukkah with historic images of the festival of Sukkot and Simchat Torah from the end of the festival, which depict scenes in different Spanish and Portuguese communities over the centuries. Over here I have with you something really special. This is a early 20th century rendering of the Sukkah at Bevis Synagogue. Special thank you to Professor Mark Epstein for sharing this with me several years ago. And what you have over here is showing the Sukkah. You can see that it would lift off. So they also had a covering for their Sukkah at that time. The beautiful, elaborate celebration inside of it. And of course, the verse of "Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days." And this had been made by the Illustrated London News on the 17th of October, 1908. And it says over here, I'll just read it to you. It says, "The Sukkah outside Bevis Synagogue celebrating the Feast of Tabernacles." And it says, on Saturday of last week, just as this year started on Saturday, began the celebration of the Feast of Tabernacles, the harvest festival of the Jews. Outside the synagogue were set up sukkahs, small huts, lightly built and hung with branches and fruit, designed to typify the booths of the command, "Ye shall dwell in booths 7 days, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt." And so it recalls the booths that we lived in as we traveled through the desert in the years from when we left Egypt till we made it to the land of Israel. The more Orthodox Jews still look upon the sukkahs as their dwelling place during the 7 days of the feast, and some even erect sukkahs in their gardens, as of course is our practice. But the practice of eating and sleeping in them is falling into disuse. Apparently, it become less common for people to eat and sleep in their sukkah. In fact, the first year that I was here in London, I slept in this Sukkah. It was very cold, and often the temperatures in England are a bit too cold to really sleep in the Sukkah, but it felt nice to be sleeping in the Sukkah in the City of London. I don't know when else that perhaps it happened, but at least it happened now, we know, at least once. And it says the following, it says, "The huts must of course be built according to well-defined rules. They must be open in some degree at least to the wind and the rain," as indeed ours was during the very rainy first days of Sukkot. And the roofs are, in consequence, slight, consisting usually of the branches of trees placed across rafters from which they hang fruit. The festival is the most joyous of the Jewish year. And indeed, as the Torah says, "V'samachta B'chagecha, you shall rejoice in your festival, referring particularly to the festival of Sukkot. And so it gives me great joy to be able to share our Sukkah with you this year, and to wish everyone a Moadim L'Simcha, a very festive Sukkot, and as the traditional response is Chagim Uzmanim L'Sason, that we should have many more times of great celebration. And so I wish you all well, and Chag Sameach.
Thank you to Rabbi Morris and to all those at Bevis Smart, and we look forward to you being able to open your historic gate again soon. So we've been a little London-centric until now, which is something that doesn't sit too well with me as a northerner. So let's really travel north and let's cross the border to Scotland and visit Glasgow. Glasgow is home to the largest Jewish community in Scotland, and it has the broadest Jewish infrastructure. So I think it would be fair to call it the Jewish capital of Scotland. Although I believe that Glasgow has also suffered from the Sukkot rain showers, I'm sure that Rabbi Rubin of Giffnock Synagogue will be able to share some Sukkot sunshine and Simcha. So we're going over to him now.
Welcome to our Sukkah in Glasgow, Scotland. One of other Sukkahs in all of Scotland. Sukkahs in Edinburgh, a Sukkah in Falkirk, Aberdeen and Dundee, and also here in Glasgow. Like there is all over the world, there are Sukkahs. And as you can see, and like any other Sukkah, it's decorated with the very, very well-known decorations. We have the prayer for the Ushpizim. We have over here the verse, the Pasuk, V'samachta b'chagecha v'yisach sameach, l'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. But I'd like to draw your attention to one Sukkah decoration that you might not find in any other Sukkah. But for us, it is very important. For us, the Reuben family, it's very important. And that is this sign, this decoration over here. It's a quote from Tehillim, from Psalms, chapter 48, verse 3. Yefei nof misos kol ha'aretz, ha'tzion yachiset sofan kiryas melech rav. Fairest of sights, joy of all earth, is Mount Zion, by the northern sides of the great king's city. It is basically praising the suburbs of Yerushalayim, how being that they're the suburbs of such a great city, they are great themselves. And this is a verse that the Pnei Menachem, the previous Ger Rebbe, always used to greet me with every time I came to visit. The first time I visited him was in the Sukkah. So to me, this verse not only reminds me of my Rebbe, but also reminds me of the Rebbe's Sukkah, and how he quoted, and the message he was trying to give me when he quoted to me this pasuk. What he was basically saying is that even if you live as far as Glasgow, Scotland, or wherever you are in the world, we are so far widespread. So wherever we are, we have to, as long as we're trying to keep that spirit of Judaism, of Torah, of God, that dream and that tradition, trying to keep it alive, then we are the suburb of that great city of Yerushalayim and everything it represents. We are part, the Sukkah for me represents everything about the Jewish story. It is the Galut, it is the exile. We are here covered in this, we are in this flimsy hut, covered by a sort of roof. But somehow, in some way, we kept it alive for thousands of years. And we continue to be a suburb of Yerushalayim, the dream of Jerusalem. Our hearts and our minds was always focused on Yerushalayim, on the temple, and everything it represents. Sukkot was a time of great joy in Jerusalem, in Yerushalayim. We talk about the Simchas Beis HaShoeva of Yerushalayim, of the temple of the Beis HaMikdash, a joy that no one has ever witnessed ever since. And we hope and we pray every single year. We say, L'shana haba. In the coming year, we should be in Jerusalem. We should once again see that, experience an amazing joy that used to take place. So tonight, I'm sitting on my sukkah, thinking about L'shana haba b'Yerushalayim. I hope and I pray that not only would we one day we won't anymore be a suburb of Yerushalayim, but one day we'll all merit to be in Jerusalem and witness once again the great joy of the Simchas Beis HaShoeva, when we saw our great sages show an example of what real joy in God is. Chag Sameach, Moadim L'Simcha, Agit Moed, and good Yom Tov to all.
Many, many thanks to Rabbi Rubin and of course to all of our UK hosts. We hope this section of this incredible Sukkah Hop has given you a good snapshot of Jewish life in the UK, as well as giving you an idea of all the ways that we're continuing to thrive despite the challenges that we've been presented with recently. Please God, we'll all be able to welcome you in person soon to our shuls, our homes, and of course our Sukkot. Wishing you all Chag Sukkot Sameach. And now back to Rabbi Dunner and to Clive. Bye.
Well, you know, that Moshe Rubin in Glasgow, just amazing. I think that's probably unique to have a pure Gera Rebbe being rabbi of one of our wonderful kind of all-in Orthodox communities. It's a feature of the Commonwealth and of Britain particularly. You know, the Orthodox communities include such diversity, but I don't think there's another one in the world that has a Gera rabbi, a Gera Chassid as their rabbi. Penny, we've got to stop indulging ourselves here because we've got so much still to come, and we've got to stop chatting and we've got to get on to these other guys. We can't hear you, Penny. You're muted. And I'm sure you said something very, very interesting, but never mind. You've got to move on. You've got lots of folk to visit. You've got to get unmuted. Now you are, and move us on.
Thank you, Clive. Before we go to Sao Paulo, I have great pleasure introducing Rabbi Natan Slifkin. Rabbi Slifkin runs the Biblical Museum of Natural History in Beit Shemesh, which has just moved to new premises, which I visited in July. And he has a special guest for our Sukkah here in Beverly Hills. Rabbi Slifkin, please introduce our next guest.
Hi. So this is a Euromastix lizard. A Euromastix lizard.
Wow.
Hold it.
Yes.
Gentle.
There you go. I'm being gentle. There you go. Even Rabbi Dunner is holding the lizard. Tell us about this lizard. It's a native of Israel.
Yes. So, you know, the Bible mentions many different animals, about 100 different animals, which are not always so easy to identify. So one of the creatures mentioned in the Bible is a tsav. Now, tsav in modern Hebrew refers to a turtle, or a tortoise, as we say in England. But just because that's what it means in modern Hebrew, it's not necessarily what it means in biblical Hebrew. According to Rav Sadia Gaon and others, who seem to be correct, the tsav of the Bible is this lizard, the Euromastix lizard. It lives in the deserts in Israel, has a very soft body and a spiky tail. Its defense mechanism is it goes into crevices in the rock with just its spiky tail sticking out, so no predators can pull it out.
Well, you know that the Biblical Museum of Jewish of Natural History is an incredible place to visit. When eventually Israel opens up, I highly recommend it. But
we're doing online tours also.
You do online tours. Yeah. We'll be sending that out. It will be available on our website. But what I want to say is that the Sukkah is a place where eventually when the Messiah comes, we're all going to be sitting in a Sukkah, and we're all going to be eating from the Leviathan. Well, the Leviathan is purported to be a whale. So today we have a whale jawbone to show you. And here, sitting in the Sukkah in Beverly Hills, we can show you what ultimately in Messianic times we will be enjoying in our Sukkah. Rabbi Slifkin.
Well, what we have here, it's so big actually, I can't even fit it in the frame of the camera. This is actually the jaw of a whale shark. A whale shark is the largest species of fish. This is actually from a juvenile whale shark. This one would have been about 25 feet long, but they get to be 50 feet long. But that's a whale shark. An actual whale would be even twice as big as that, up to 100 feet long. Right? So that's 4 times as big as the jaws that I'm holding here. Now, the Midrash about how when Mashiach comes, we'll be dwelling in a sukkah made out of the skin of Leviathan and eating the flesh of Leviathan. So some interpreted that literally. There is a giant pickled Leviathan awaiting us. But others interpret it metaphorically. And the idea being that if you think about the Leviathan as a whale, so when ancient whalers went hunting whales, they would use every single part of it, right? They'd use the oil, they'd use the bones, they'd use the teeth, they'd use the baleen, right? Every single part of it would be used for something. And Leviathan etymologically refers to a gathering, a community. So really it refers to the nations of the world, which for much of history were a very terrifying force for the Jewish people, just like a whale. It's like this terrifying force. But ultimately, the whale is something which is beneficial in so many different ways. And that's the idea that when Succah, representing a global festival, is the idea of representing how, as history progresses, different communities, different civilizations all have something positive to contribute to the overall goal of history. So that's the idea of the Messianic era. Succah, made out of the skin of Leviathan, consuming the flesh. It's absorbing everything good that mankind has to offer.
Folks, you heard it here first. We've got two rabbis on screen and they are promoting two treif animals. Okay, so this is a first. The Succah hop is a first, and now we've got rabbis encouraging you to engage with lizards and whales. And we all know from Jonah that we should really stay away from such things. But we need to move on to Latin America. We've got Brazil, we've got Mexico. Penny, tell us about them.
Well, you know, we promised every continent on the planet besides Antarctica. We have Brazil. Let's go on to Brazil.
From Brazil.
That hair looking good.
Well, we're going across to Texas, where I say hello to Barry Wernick, a very dear friend who I met in Moscow in the early 90s. And at that time, he was a student. I was an assistant rabbi. But it's a great pleasure to say hello to a Succah in Texas. How are you doing, Barry?
Howdy from Texas. Chag Sameach. I have one of my beautiful daughters here. Hey, Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Mr. Center. And it's really exciting to see all these people from all over the world.
What's going on in Texas for Succahs? How are you doing there?
We're doing great. The weather's beautiful and able to bring out my open road hat for the fall season of 85 to 90 degrees.
Yeah.
And it's just great seeing all these people from all over the world and what you've done for this. Someone else is coming. We've got some more kids here coming from the Wernick Hebrew Academy of Texas. Teaching at home right now. Come over here. Say hello. Where's your hat? We've got wonderful things that the children did for the Ushpizin, little wheels. Got a lot of grapes up on our sukkah. Say hello. Say Chag Sameach.
Live across the world.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. I don't know. You didn't leave your hat. They were in. We were expecting to be on a couple hours later from now, so the children and everyone weren't really ready for this. So what are we doing? So what's the deal?
What's it like to be a Jew in Texas?
Pardon?
What's it like to be a Jew in Texas?
To be a Jew in Texas, well, it's wonderful actually. We're in what they call the heart of the Bible Belt, or the buckle of the Bible Belt. So I think they appreciate the fact that Jews actually practice and observe their religion. I think it's a misconception from a lot of people who aren't from the South, what we call the South here in Texas, that it's hard to be a Jew and a practicing Jew, and that people look at you funny. But in fact, we're very lucky because of our Christian friends, other religions from other religions down here who are also observant of their faith. They're believers in God. And that's a great thing, because when they see a Jew that's practicing and observing, it only they have only more admiration and more respect. And it's sad. Sometimes, you see people that are afraid to don a kippah or a hat, and they don't realize that when you do that, you show the other people around you that you actually observe and you actually love your religion. Like I said, the admiration you get from everyone else is phenomenal. But we'd love for everyone to come here and visit us in Texas.
We're looking forward to seeing you, Barry, in Texas, and it's a pleasure to see you and, of course, to speak to you. And you're a wonderful friend.
Wonderful to see you. And this is and our girls are happy. They didn't put on their makeup, but they're happy to be famous. They're watching you from all over the world. So.
But this is not Hollywood. It's all good.
Good to meet you, Wernick girls and Wernick family.
Wonderful to meet you. We're going. Thank you so much, Barry. Thank you for
joining us. Where are we going next?
We're going we have a surprise in store. We have a dear friend of mine from New York, Gilbert Gottfried, who's going to give us a special message.
Wow.
Stop flipping.
Hi, this is Gilbert Gottfried, the world's favorite Jew. And I can't believe they've asked me to say something for an international Jewish event. Anyway, it's for a Sukkah hopping online event. What is Sukkah hopping? Is that some kind of crazy dance where you wear a sukkah on one of your feet and hop around yelling Sukkah, 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 Sukkah? Now, Rabbi Dunner is the guy organizing this crazy event, and he assured me that Sukkah hopping means you're visiting other people in their sukkah and getting something to eat. Really? How desperate do you need to be to visit someone else's sukkah? Anyway, I understand that there's people watching this broadcast from Kampala, Uganda, from their sukkah. Are you kidding me? Uganda? There are Jews in Uganda? I thought all Jews either live in New York or at least come from New York, but there are Jews in Uganda? Let me wish them old Chag Sameach. I know I mispronounced that because I'm a bad Jew. And let me wish all of you Chag Sameach. And wherever you are. And good Yontif. And keep Sukkah hopping. And Rabbi Dunner in Beverly Hills. Next time I'm out on the West Coast, you better watch out. If you see an old Jewish guy with a screechy voice from New York with a sukkah on his foot, it's me, and I'm coming for you.
Well, Vinny, the people you mix with. Now, I don't want to be over political by suggesting that Texas was in Latin America, but I put together Sao Paulo and Mexico. But I do know there's an awful lot of Hispanics in Texas, so maybe it is in Latin America after all. But where are we going next?
Let's go to Mexico. Let's say hello to Mexico. I don't know where they are, but let's find them and let's see if we can get them. Great to see you. Thank you for joining us.
Hi. Thank you. Hi. Thank you very much for having us here in Mexico City in our family Succah.
Bienvenido a todos.
Muchas gracias. Bienvenido.
Oh, I didn't mean to do that.
Sorry?
Tell us about Sukkot in Mexico. We can see the weather is beautiful. Do you grow your own etrogim in Mexico? How does it work there?
Yeah, we do have our etrog and the lulav, the arabat, all the things here. We have them here in Mexico City. And we celebrate Sukkot every year. And this is our family, my parents' Sukkah here, the Goldberg family Sukkah. And you are more than welcome to come. now cybernetical, next year in person, we hope. And we love to have some uspizin and some guests every year. So we're more than glad to say hi to you and welcome you here in Mexico City. We do have a beautiful day today.
It's wonderful to be with you in Mexico. And we think it's wonderful that Jews all over the world are celebrating Sukkot and joining together with us for this global Sukkah hop. It's an incredible project. It's an incredible program. And it's so wonderful to be able to celebrate Sukkot with you in Mexico while we're here. I'm in Beverly Hills, Clive is in Bristol, but we are celebrating Sukkot with you in this international event.
Yeah, we're so excited to be part of this event and to celebrate with all of you all over the world, with all of the Jews. So we're so moved and so glad to be here and to be part of this amazing project.
And many people may not know that Mexico City has a great community. I think about 40,000 Jews. You have Jewish schools. So there's a Jewish university, I think. It's a remarkable community and well worth a visit. As soon as people can start traveling again, I think Mexico must be a place that Jews go and see this amazing community, both Ashkenazim and Sephardim that you have there. Even though you're Spanish speakers, you're not all Spanish and Portuguese Jews.
That's true. We do have a beautiful and amazing community. We support each other a lot. We have more than 10 Jewish schools. We have sports centers. We have so many things for Jews, many synagogues, university. And we are so glad to be Jewish here in Mexico, to celebrate the Hagim and just to share with all of you.
And that's why no tour of the Jewish world would be complete without a brief visit into a Sukkah in Mexico too. So thank you so much, Goldberg family, for hosting us. It's been lovely to see you all. Chag Sameach, Moadim L'Simcha. Send our love to all the other Jews of Mexico also. And we hope we will meet in person.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Chag Sameach, and be welcome whenever you want. A todos nuestros amigos que hablan español, bienvenidos y Chag Sameach.
Amen, amen.
Thank you. It's now a pleasure to introduce here, before we go to Toronto, we're going to introduce a dear friend of mine, Ilan Gold, who, as you know, is an international Jewish comedian. He's been all over the world. I don't know if he's been to Kampala, Uganda. I don't know if he's been to Mumbai, India, but he's got plenty to say about being in a Sukkah. Ilan, you can take your mask off. No mask off?
That's the wrong message.
Okay, I'm sorry. Leave your mask on.
Yes, we're keeping the mask on. How are you, Rabbi? It's good to be here.
It's great to have you on in this international Sukkah.
We're a little close for comfort.
Okay.
But I love you so much that I decided to risk my life as you spray your aerosols all over the place. And but that's how much I love you. The holiday of Sukkot, my people, the Jewish people, our homeland, Israel. I love, and I have nothing to offer. I don't have a word. I don't speak Spanish, but I can do a Gilbert Gottfried.
Okay.
Oh, stop it! It's crazy. I'm sitting here in Beverly Hills with a rabbi that doesn't wear a mask. It's the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen. But Chag Sameach. He didn't know how to say it.
No, you noticed that. Even though he's got Jewish roots, he said he's the world's greatest Jew.
For the record, you're not anti-mask, right?
No, not at all. I've just had COVID. I'm no longer infectious.
You what?
I had COVID.
Ah! When?
I didn't attend shul on Rosh Hashanah. How many rabbis do you know who didn't attend shul on Rosh Hashanah?
Every rabbi this year.
Oh, I see. Okay. Well,
when did you get it?
I got it sometime at the beginning of September. And
it's the beginning of October.
Yes, I've tested negative. Stop moving away from me.
You have tested negative.
I've tested negative.
But no one knows anything about this. Of God forbid it to come back. And then it's like Hollywood. No one knows anything.
Wait. The whole point of this entire Sukkah hop was positive, optimistic, and we've suddenly taken a downward turn into fear and disaster here. Let's be clear. The only person whose life is being put at risk here now is Penny's, because he's sitting behind you, Penny, and any spray that's escaping is scattering itself all over you, right? This man is safe. Penny is safe. I'm safe because I'm on my own. And now I think we should get on to where have we got next? Is it Toronto we go to? I'm not sure where we're going to next.
He just cut you off.
Because of my
I did, because time's running on, guys.
It's called humor.
I'll see you later, guys.
Okay, so we.
Hi, this is Daniel Karapkin. I'm the senior rabbi at Beth Avraham Yosef of Toronto Congregation, affectionately known as the Bayit. Our shul is in Thornhill, Ontario. We are the largest Orthodox shul in Canada, and our neighborhood, Thornhill, is just a suburb north of Toronto, and we have the densest population of Jews in all of Canada in our little suburban area. It's a beautiful, beautiful pocket of Yiddishkeit here in Canada. It's funny because the Gemara tells us that in the future world, God is going to test the other nations of the world by telling them to go inside a sukkah when it's really, really hot. And I was speaking to some of my children in Los Angeles, and they told me that over sukkahs it's really, really hot. And that's their nisayon, that's their trial. Here in Canada, it's just getting chilly as we start to enter into the fall, right around Sukkot. And our challenge is making sure that we're wearing the proper headgear and the proper outerwear to stay warm and not to get too cold or, God forbid, get sick. So we just wanted to wish you a Chag Sameach. Later on, we're going to be having some children visit our sukkah for a real sukkah hop. And I hope that you're enjoying this virtual sukkah hop and getting a flavor of different sukkot and different communities all over the world. Wishing you a Moadim L'Simcha and a Chag Sameach.
And here we are with a group of some of our favorite youth from the Bayit, and we're doing a sukkah project where they're making sukkot from cookies and candy, sort of like a gingerbread sukkah. Everyone say Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach from the Bayit Youth here in Toronto. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Chag Sameach.
That's great. We've gone from the warmest to the chilliest of Sukkot around the world. And that, of course, Canada in the Commonwealth. But we're now going to go, I think, to a country which is not in the Commonwealth, more fool it, because we're heading into the heart of the USA, yeah?
Absolutely. We're going across to New York City.
We are in the sukkah. With me?
Rabbi Benji Goldschmidt, we welcome you to our Sukkah Hop. It's so wonderful to have you on board.
It's great to be here. How you doing?
We're doing fantastically well. I'm here in my Sukkah in Beverly Hills. You're there in your Sukkah in New York. I understand that New York has got a little bit of a stricter lockdown than we have here in California. Tell us a little bit about that and how it's affected your Sukkahs.
Listen, you can look at the distancing between the different tables we have over here. We're limited. We used to have in each sukkah a couple hundred people join in a usual year. Now we're limited to 30, 40 people using it at a time, which obviously limits the amount of people who could come. Usually we have catered dinners with great food. Now everyone has to bring their food from home.
The fact is that this year's Sukkot is very strange. That's why, of course, we're doing this online live stream Sukkah Hop. But how have Minyanim been? How have generally, how was your holidays? How have the festivals been at Parkey Synagogue and on the Upper East Side of Manhattan?
So listen, we have three types of services. We had indoors in person, we had outdoors in person, and we had virtual services. So for example, we had an online Kol Nidre program, we had an online Yizkor service, we had an online, we tried to get at the end of Yom Kippur, the last Tkiya Shofar, after Yom Kippur was over, for people who were davening at home to get a feel of the last Kaddish and Avdallah from Shul. And then we had, for example, an outdoor Yizkor service, outdoor shofar blowings, but the actual davenings were in our main sanctuary. They usually could hold over 1,000 people inside. This year we were maxed out at 150 people for our main sanctuary.
Now, we did manage to get your father on from Moscow, and of course that's where we first met when you were a little kid, and I was the assistant rabbi in Arkhipova Street in Moscow. Tell me what's going on in Russia. I understand that there's oligarchs there already taking the vaccine. What's the Sukkah situation in Moscow?
The Sukkah situation in Moscow, there are many Sukkot. I think there's a Sukkah in the Korah synagogue. There are 9 different Sukkahs that were built, so many different compartments. Yes, people, Moscow is, Russia has a very sad statistic that is helping it out. The life expectancy of the Russian male, the majority of victims of COVID-19 are elderly males.
Right.
The average expectancy of a Russian-speaking person outside of Moscow is not too high. I think it's in the 60s. So again, sadly,
they don't reach the level. They don't reach the age where comorbidities come into play, is what you're saying.
Correct. But just before the holidays, my mother was instructed by the mayor that any teachers older than 65 have to remain home, cannot come and teach in person. So they're trying to restrict the elderly, of which sadly they do not have too many of, and allow more free commerce and activity for younger people.
If you recall, we had some remarkable events in Moscow, many thousands of people attending for the Yom Tovim, for Purim, and for the other events that we organized in the early 90s. And if I do remember, the average age, generally speaking, on Shabbos was quite old at that stage. So things have clearly changed over the years.
That has changed completely. And Rabbi Penny Dunner, will you allow me to address your flock at this moment?
Of course.
So, dear young Israel of North Beverly Hills, you are one lucky community. I'll tell you what. As a child, so now I'm an assistant rabbi, and Rabbi Penny Dunner used to be my father's assistant rabbi. He was the coolest person I've ever met as a kid. I remember him singing a song called Baruch HaGever with the guitar, the hair he has in his chin was on his head, which made him look very cool and very hip. And I remember his image singing in the Moscow Choral Synagogue. I just thought he was the coolest person ever. And you really got a brilliant, inspiring, intelligent rabbi, which is not easy. It's not easy to have. So Rabbi Penny, I hope you're appreciated for all your amazing talents.
Thank you so much. It's really a pleasure to speak to you at Park East Synagogue.
Well, Binny, that was a nice plug for you. Hey, do you know we've had over 1,000 people join us from all around the world? And folks, it's not too late if you want to just send us a message to tell us where you're listening from as well. That'd be grand. But I think we're moving to our last place, if I'm not mistaken. I'm a bit surprised to discover there are any Jews living there, but apparently there's a Jewish community in this town as well. Maybe, Penny, you can fill us in. Do they make a minyan? Are there enough Jews to create a community? What's going on there?
I'm sitting in Los Angeles, in Beverly Hills, with my cousin, Nati Baram. And I have to tell you that we are fairly unique because our community had a little outbreak of COVID. And it took place just before Rosh Hashanah, which meant that both me, the rabbi, and the cousin, Nati, were both out on Rosh Hashanah. And they had to quickly scramble and somehow make a program for Rosh Hashanah for the community. And we had 2 separate locations. It wasn't easy. Nati, how did you feel about that?
It was good to be back on Yom Kippur.
Yeah, absolutely. We had a great time on Yom Kippur. We had 2 locations. We davened together. Yeah. It worked well. So now both me and Nati are not infectious, which means that we can conquer the world. We'll be out wherever you are before long. Clive, I think that we have had a most fantastic program. This has been one of the most remarkable projects in the Jewish community during this COVID crisis. We've brought together Jews from all over the world. And this broadcast is recorded. It's going to go out on YouTube. It's one of the most remarkable programs and projects that has ever happened because we have brought together Jews from every single continent and every single community that we could. And I think that that's a wonderful thing to do. Sukkah Shalom. And shalom, as you know, is a derivative of the word shalem, which is complete. We are complete when we are together and when we are united. And that is what we've done today. We've united Jewish communities everywhere. Jews of every stripe and color, and the incredible range of people that we have managed to bring together has been nothing short of staggering.
Well, I must say, for me, this has been a double blessing. It's been wonderful for the Commonwealth Jewish Council to, as it were, be able to show off its wares, to see the incredible diversity of Jewish communities that we have with us. And it's been a second blessing to reconnect with you, Penny, after all these years. That's been just lovely. So we are going to close. People, of course, mentioned the United Synagogue, but it's not really the United Synagogue. It's the Hampstead Synagogue that started this whole idea off. And we're going to close by going to the co-chair, Gabriel, I'm not going to get that wrong, the co-chair of Hampstead Synagogue. Mo'adim l'simcha to everybody. Chag Sameach. Have a wonderful last days of the festival, and then plunge into the rest of the year with celebration and joy, whatever excuse you can find. Gabriel, over to you.
Thank you very much, and thank you so much both to Clive and to Penny. You're a dream team, a wonderful double act, and it really is great to see you come back together, because your lives have crossed about 80 years ago, I think, and we got you back, and to see you join together in the rehearsal was really a great pleasure. So thank you so much to Rabbi Dunner and to Clive Lawton. So I want to say something a little bit serious in a moment, but before I do that, there are so many people to thank. We can't do that now. In fact, what we're going to do is I'm going to show the credits. You know, when you used to go to the cinema and see a film, the credits would run. Well, we've got so many people to thank. We're going to have a soundtrack of the entire opera, so it's going to be so long, but that's coming up in a moment. But I want to speak on an emotional level, because tonight has been absolutely amazing. It's a dream come true for me. And I don't know about you, but I have lots of ideas. And when I give people ideas, what I tend to see is their jaw drop to the floor. They look at me in a rather quizzical way, and they kind of make me feel, well, this man's a complete nutter. He's a complete mashugana, kind of mad person. Well, if that happens to you, what I would suggest very strongly you do is that you pick up the phone to Robbie Hoffman from the Commonwealth Jewish Council. You pick up the phone to Carly Einfield from the Beverly Hills Jewish Community. And what you'll find, instead of them thinking your ideas are crazy, they'll say, yeah, that sounds about right. And I tell you something, they will make your dream come true. They have worked incessantly. I can't tell you. If it wasn't for them, there would be no this evening. It's just absolutely incredible, the amount of work that they've done. So I want to pay a very special tribute to those two people. Now, if you have a crazy idea and you find these people and they can actually do it for you, you might want a bit of Hollywood stardust. If you want that, then you have to go to Penny Dunner. So he takes your crazy idea and then he makes it even crazier. Now, we only, I think, had about 2 weeks to put the whole thing together, okay? And there was Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and some of our people got ill in the meantime. So I'm just wondering, if I'd given Penny Dunner a whole month, right, I suspect that we would have seen Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II building a sukkah in the garden of Buckingham Palace, with serenaded by the band of the Grenadier Guards. I really mean it. So thank you very much to Penny. It's been absolutely wonderful. And we've got so many other partners as well. But I also wanted to say something a little bit serious now. And I was reflecting on what the chief rabbi said. And you'll recall that it was an idea in the sukkah of one of his illustrious predecessors, Chief Rabbi Nathan Marcus Adler, who asked the Jewish leaders around the world, the Jewish leaders in the United Kingdom to come together in his sukkah to hear one of his ideas. And that idea became the United Synagogue, one of the most successful synagogal bodies anywhere in the world, which is celebrating its 150th anniversary this year. So I was thinking, we're all in our separate sukkahs right around the world, right here, right now. Maybe we can have a shared thought and see what we can do with it. Well, I think the first thing to reflect on is that many of us didn't have any understanding of what the Jewish world really meant. We have met Jews in parts of the world that we've never actually experienced Jews before. And it all happened tonight. So I want to pay tribute to all those people who participated because it's so very special. We've made friends tonight, and we should keep those friends together. So what I'm going to do is invite everybody, absolutely everybody who's been on this broadcast and everybody who's been watching at home or in their sukkah to come to an international day of learning. This is something that the Hampstead Synagogue is putting together for our rabbi, who you've met earlier, Rabbi Dr. Michael Harris, because he is celebrating his 25th year with the Hampstead community. And so we're going to put an International Day of Jewish Learning together. And one of those great leaders is going to be the Chief Rabbi, who you've met before, and also Rabbi Lord Jonathan Sachs, who I'm sure is known to many people around the world. So those are just two of the great speakers. If you want further information about that, please do get in contact with me. And if the ticker goes at the bottom, you should have the details about that. So if you want to contact me at Hampstead Synagogue and keep that running, keep it going, doesn't matter, keep it on a loop, please do make contact with me and we'll give you that information. Now, Hampstead Synagogue here in London had to operate in lockdown. So the lockdown here in the UK went on for months, around Pesach time, right up and through to the summer. And one of the things that I noticed, being basically locked up in my own home, was that I didn't have any idea what was going on even 3 miles down the road, what the Jewish community there was doing. So what we did, we instigated a program of activities where we asked the Jewish community here in the UK to start a discussion and debate. Primarily what we did was we got all the Jewish leaders together and we asked them the same question: how is the Jewish community faring under the pandemic? And we got the answer, and you can see some of those recordings on the US TV channel. And to be quite honest, the production values were pretty ropey in the early days, but they are actually a historic document because it shows the fear that was going on at the time. The second question I was always insisting that we actually answered was, what do you see as the biggest priority once we become COVID-free? What's going to be the next issue? And everybody seemed to say the same thing. We may very well end a health crisis and move into a financial crisis. You can see that economies are not doing particularly well around the world. And what I would like to do, here's another idea. And all right, I've just heard that Robbie and Carly have just gone into hiding because they just heard me say I have another idea. What I'm thinking is an international conference, possibly in the first quarter of next year, for 2021, a conference to actually look at the financial implications of how quickly we can get people who sadly have become redundant or lost their businesses, how quickly can we get them up and running again? Because we know that we are an interdependent Jewish world. Wealthy countries have traditionally supported the Jewish communities in the poorer countries. Well, what we're going to find, I think, is that charity begins at home. So I think this is going to be a huge implication for everybody. So I think I'd really like to see if it all come together to see whether or not we have some responses and some answers to this impending crisis. We hope and pray, of course, that it never happens. And finally, of course, we shouldn't say goodbye. I think we should say, let's do the same thing next year. But from me here in the Jewish Museum in London, in a rather cold and windswept London, may I wish each and every one of you a Chag Sameach and see you again very, very soon. Thank you and good night.